Hi, guys. So I started getting a download this morning pretty early. I was hoping to sleep in a little bit and recoup some energy, but that wasn't on Spirit's agenda for the day. So I'm finding that this may have to be a two-part video because this pertains to more than one person, but there are some very specific messages coming through that need to come through. And then there's also a general message. And even though it's a general message for a collective of people, it's important. It's important to relate it and important to integrate it, especially as we're moving through a time where a lot of us are ascending and growing on a fast track, basically. Um, I know that's been happening for myself as well. And I've been a little astonished at some of the things that have been happening, that I've been channeling and feeling. And so it's a really important time for a lot of people right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the generalized first part of the download that Spirit gave me when I woke up this morning. So the first things to come through were, if you can't be a blessing in someone's life, at least be neutral. At least choose not to leave them in a state that is worse than when you found them. And that's really important. I know in life that's not always possible, and it's not always something that we mean to have occur if the latter is the case. But we are being told to be very mindful with how we proceed with other people, especially right now, because folks are going to be really fragile. We also don't know what anyone is dealing with at any given time. And I know that a lot of us have seen that meme or heard that statement, but it's so true. We don't know what anybody's going through. And a lot of people don't feel comfortable to share what they're dealing with, or it's very personal, or it's embarrassing to them, or there's shame templates involved, and they're afraid of judgment. But Spirit was relating relationships, especially when they first start out, friendships, coworker dynamics, familial dynamics, any kind of dynamic. It's kind of like applying for a bank loan when you are building a relationship with someone of any kind. There is an agreement that you will be given something and that you will pay it back. There will be some form of reciprocation. It is an agreement. It's something that both people agree to. And, when it comes to relationships, there is an unspoken trust in which both people look at each other, at least in a balanced situation where both people are reasonable, in a space to do it, where both people say, even if it's unspoken, and most times it's unspoken, I trust that you are not going to waste my time or my energy. I trust that you are going to be good to me. I trust that you are not going to harm me. And I trust that there is going to be some kind of balance here, that I will not walk away from you or this experience feeling that I have lost something or feeling that I am wounded. So all of us, every single human being, unless there's something extraneous occurring that prevents that from happening or from being the case, every human being is looking for that and hoping that they are safe with other people. And I've been channeling that message for weeks on end, just this idea that we should be able to rest in the safety of the relationships that we have. We should be able to feel safe with someone. So, we need to be mindful that just like when we take out a loan, we are borrowing someone's time, we're borrowing someone's energy, we are borrowing their presence. And a lot of times, there are soul contracts involved, and so people will be drawn together, or one will be drawn to another because they need to learn a lesson. There's something outstanding that needs to be gleaned, or there's an entire ascension process that needs to begin. And usually that will occur between someone who is a light worker but has been avoiding their purpose, or is way too bogged down in their own trauma to begin, or they're refusing to do their work, or to walk that path, and they will be drawn to a light worker. And usually it's the light workers challenge in that soul contract to further shore up their boundaries, because we are like a light to people. So they will be drawn to you thinking that they're drawn to you for a certain reason, when in reality, their soul is drawn to that light. Usually the wounding will pull that person towards light because they're looking for some form of homeostasis. That's our natural state of being: homeostasis, balance, peace. This is going in a whole different direction. This is definitely going to have to be a 2-part reading. So I need to have them slow down a bit because they're throwing, my spirit guides are throwing a bunch of shit at me at once. You guys need to slow it down. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay, so people are looking for equilibrium. That's our natural state of being. That's our inherent state of being until we incur trauma. And so lower frequencies will be attracted to people who are in naturally a higher frequency, those people who have dealt with their trauma or are dealing with their trauma, whose energy is vibrating at a higher level, more aligned with peace and balance and love and all of those really positive things, whereas someone who isn't working through their stuff and is clinging to kind of old ways and patterns, they're looking for assuagement from the discomfort that they're feeling. And so this is very specific for a few people. If you are a light worker, and you know that you are, you know that you've been gifted, specifically, I'm being told, from childhood. And then there's one who just recently started waking up and has been going through this process for the last couple of years, but they're going through a really rough, dark night of the soul right now, like another cracking open. So via a soul contract, you will attract these folks to you, and they don't know how to receive your light or your love yet. I just heard literally they don't know how to love, because they didn't receive love. And so they look to patterns of behavior and different ways of pulling themselves out of their own head. And usually that will involve exploiting other people, different forms of addiction. A lot of times they will be struggling with some form of mental disorder because of the trauma. I'm being told multiple things. Across the board: post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, and not diagnosable textbook narcissistic personality disorder, but they have elements of narcissistic traits as a coping mechanism. But then I'm also being told dissociative personality or dissociative identity disorder, which a lot of us know as being like multiple personality disorder. It's now called DID, dissociative identity disorder. We may have to do a video on those different aspects so you can recognize the signs, because a lot of you are dealing with these people going through these things. Wow, I'm being pulled in a lot of different directions. Gosh. So, you know, the thing is, when we get into some kind of dynamic with someone, a lot of times if you're a light worker, you really want to step in and help that person. You give your all to that dynamic. And then usually what happens, because that person is so desperate for escape from what they're dealing with, all they know how to do is siphon, and that's what they're engaging in. They may or may not be purposefully doing this or even fully aware that they're doing it or why. But regardless of intention, what's done is done, and there's still damage done. And that can't be negated. It's important to have compassion for those people when they basically use you up and then you're discarded because you no longer hold value for them. The important thing coming out of that situation is for you to take the time to heal, because those wounds are massive when something like that happens. And especially if you are a light worker and encountering this, yeah, some of your light has been taken. So what do? Do you allow yourself to kind of immerse yourself in anger and wanting to get even, or focusing too much on that person? Or are you going to focus on yourself and start to fill up the void that they've left? It's important to sift through what they have taught you, um, and do understand that karma is a thing, especially if you're a light worker. The karma that people incur when they mess with a light worker, basically because we are protected, that karma will be very swift. You will have absolutely no control or say over it, when it happens, how it happens. And a lot of times, the more damage done to someone who is a light worker in a dynamic, um, the swifter the justice, I just heard. And you're probably not going to see it. Spirit says there are things in your dynamic. This is for the two people that I referenced before that had the very specific, really heavy situations, like life-changing situations. You're not going to see it, but you also were not supposed to see what was really happening behind the scenes. You were not supposed to see it, and there's still more that you don't know. They're referencing secrets. They're referencing gaslighting and avoidance when trying to find out what was happening and asking questions. They're saying it's worse than you thought it was. And there are things that you are not meant to know. These are things that we are meant to know, and you can't do our job for us. Your job is to heal and just trust in us. You have to trust that we are going to balance things out. We are taking care of it. There are some things they're saying that you will see as far as, and will have seen as far as balance being created. But there are certain things that you were not meant to see. That's our job. It's not yours. Your energy needs to be focused on your healing. And I just heard we give ourselves closure, because if you can't trust that individual to be good to you and to leave you in either a neutral condition or better condition than when they found you, how can you trust them or expect them to be able to provide you closure? We provide that for ourselves. They're also referencing holding fire in one's hands, how when we get stuck in a certain gear, anger and rage and wanting revenge and wanting to make sure that someone gets their due, that's fire that you are holding in your hands. And it's a lot of exhausting energy. It drains your energy physically and emotionally and takes away from your ability to heal. That's a big one. You are literally allowing that person to still have control over you because they're still capturing and siphoning your energy. You still have a huge leak there. We also need to talk about cords, because when we have a connection with someone, or we bond with someone in some way, or we're thinking of someone, we create an etheric cord with them. And they can exist in certain places like the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye. So we can get really foggy with our intuition because our emotions are taking over and getting in the way. We can have a lot of pain or even physical pain or pressure in the heart chakra and be kind of wavering in our emotions and have a little bit of instability there. And we can feel the lower level emotions, and we can feel the emotions of that person. So you want to be really, really careful. This is something that I experience a lot, and it's not fun. So I have to now be very mindful every day to cut that. And they can attach to different places. And I need to shut the energy down here. So I'm going to start part 2 out. This might even be a 3-part. I just need to ground myself. So be back in a minute with another video, and we'll just kind of get into the different chords and what else Spirit wants to say.